Welcome to Bruce's Planet. I've got a fantastic story. Today, you will not believe God's grace and God's mercy came and helped a friend of mine, good friend of mine, and we're going to learn about it today, aren't we?
Yes.
Tell me about your story.
Okay, I'm a big one for God's got everything in control. If you give him charge of your life, then he'll work everything out, even if it seems bad at the time. So it goes back a few years ago. My daughter, who was turning 21, was going to America by herself, and she asked me if I would come along with her. And I thought, oh no, I won't leave my wife home. I won't go. I'll stay home.
Okay.
And but then, because my wife's had a few health issues and couldn't really go, and but then my wife said, no, you go with your daughter, have a holiday with your daughter, because you don't know when some guy's going to come and snap her away and she'll be married and whatever, which did happen within 12 months of the story. She met a guy and got married. But anyway, so she had just turned 21 and I was going to turn 50 the week before going to America.
50.
Yep, and I thought I was quite unfit, a bit like I am at the moment. But I thought I didn't want to slow her down on this holiday. It was an 8-week holiday to America.
8 weeks is good.
8 weeks, like 2 months.
Yeah.
And I thought I don't want to slow her down, so I need to do something about this. So I thought I need to get fit by the time I turn 50. And so I started off walking. I did a lot of walking, and then that really wasn't doing much for me. So then I started bike riding. So I got into bike riding, and I started doing lots and lots of bike riding, and I got up to riding 100-kilometre rides at a time.
Wow, that's
things
great.
like that.
Yep.
So by the time and I did this for about 8 months, I think it was, and I turned 50 the week before going to America, and I was actually probably fitter than my daughter was.
Oh.
So that was good. So anyway, because I got into the bike riding, we landed in San Francisco. That's where we first landed in America, and we landed there one afternoon. And then we're sort of jet lagged, so we sort of slept that night. And then the next day we went out to Alcatraz, but then in the afternoon we decided to hire bicycles to ride.
Oh, okay.
Because got into the bike riding or whatever. Anyway, so my daughter hired an e-bike so she could keep up with me riding a normal bike, you see. Didn't realise that e-bike, she still had trouble catching up with me because they're speed limited. But anyway, so we rode through San Francisco and it's very hilly and whatever, and I thought, I'm doing really well here riding. Anyway, we went across the Golden Gate Bridge and there's people everywhere, and the people and the bikes all share the same bit at the side. And I remember riding across there thinking, this is an accident waiting to happen here. This is, there's weaving in and out of people. It's just thick with people. Anyway, we got to the other side, enjoyed the views and whatever, and then started coming back. And on the way back, there were not even half the amount of people. It's actually quite empty. So anyway, we're riding along, and I remember we're riding along, and I thought we were going to be on the other side of the bridge. Like they have different side, the pedestrian part, different sides open at different times, and for some reason we'll come back on the same side, and I thought, this is strange. Anyway, we're riding along, my daughter's riding in front of me, I'm behind her, and I remember seeing on the other side there were some people doing construction work, and I thought, oh, that's why we're not on that side of the bridge. So I'm riding along, and I pointed over, I called out to my daughter in front of me, saying, you're telling her that's why we're not over that side of the bridge. So I was just riding with one hand. Of course, she was in front of me, so she heard me calling her, so she slowed down and turned around, and of course I was going to run into her, so I put the brake on.
Yeah.
And in Australia, the left, like when I ride the bike, normally I put both brakes on at the same time. In Australia, the left brake is the rear wheel. I didn't know that in America, the left brake is the front wheel.
Ah, there you go, education.
So what happened is, because she slowed down, I put the rear brake, what I thought was the rear brake, and was the front brake, and my wheel locked up and I went flying over the handlebars and landed on my face on this bridge. It's concrete, solid concrete, and smashed on my face. Now I have no memory of the accident. I've got no memory whatsoever, except that just before we went to America, the week before, we decided that this trip we're going to video things that we do and use it as a audition to go on the Amazing Race together, Amazing Race Australia.
Yep.
So I bought this 360 video camera, which I had mounted to my handlebar. So it recorded the whole thing, the whole 360, so I could watch it back later. This is how I figured out what happened. Because other than that, I've got no memory of the accident. I think God blocks these things out that could be traumatic.
Very traumatic, yeah.
Yeah, well, I didn't actually watch the video until probably a couple of months later because I couldn't sort of bring myself to, because it was pretty horrific. Anyway, in the video you can see that I land on my face and I'm unconscious laying on the bridge. And there's my daughter, 21-year-old, who's running back screaming, Dad, Dad, like she'd put her bike down and come running back screaming. And anyway, then the battery on my camera went flat. I knew it was going flat. I remember it going flat just before that, but that's enough to, oh no, it videoed me being unconscious there for a couple of minutes.
Yes.
And then I get up, and I got no memory of getting up. I stood up, and I must have thought I had a runny nose or something because I got the hanky out of my pocket and I'm wiping my, thinking just my nose is running, but it's just all blood because I'd smashed all the bone, the maxilla it's called, up here where my teeth go into, that bone across there, broken on my nose, and my teeth were all facing back into my mouth. And,
wow, that's serious.
It was like really, I do have some photos, I don't know if you want to edit them in here, but anyway, we'll see. It might be too gory. Anyway, so I was pretty bad, and then people on the video, you can see people get me and sit me down, and then it went flat.
Flat,
so that's it. Anyway, I have no memory other than I remember a policeman, because the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco has its own police station.
Oh.
And there was a policeman there.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying to me, "You've had an accident, the ambulance is on the way."
Wow.
That's one little memory. Then I've got another little memory of being put in the back of the ambulance. I don't remember being put on a stretcher. I don't remember the ambulance people attending to me. I remember being put in the back of the ambulance, and I remember enough to know that my daughter was sitting in the front of the ambulance. So I think God just gives you these things to reassure you.
Yeah.
She said that I was talking to them, not making much sense, but I was sort of talking to them the whole time, and I don't remember the whole ambulance ride, which is 30 kilometres to the hospital, and I don't remember being wheeled into the hospital.
What hospital was that? What hospital?
So, because of the side of the bridge we were on, the ambulance sort of headed out of San Francisco, back across the bridge to the next town. I can't remember the name of the town. I can't remember the name of the town. Anyway, so, but I remember my memory comes back in the ER. And I'm in the ER, and they've got a neck brace and whatever. This is where we got the photo. But it might not be good to put on YouTube, we'll see. Because I asked my daughter to take a photo, and she didn't want to, but she did. And then my memory comes back, they did scans and whatever, and then they all patched me up a bit and said, "You need to find a dentist to get all your teeth back in," because this was all, it was pretty bad. And we'd only been in America for 24 hours, and we were there in America for an 8-week holiday. So anyway, I didn't realise how dazed and concussed and whatever I was. I didn't really have much experience with that. Anyway, they sort of cleaned me up and said you need to they wanted to see all our travel insurance, which is another story in itself. But anyway, because it cost us something like $40,000 worth of insurance payout within the first 24 hours. Anyway, they said you need to find a dentist. It was a Friday afternoon. They said you won't find a dentist in San Francisco over the weekend, but you need to get to one as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were actually leaving San Francisco the next morning. We're supposed to be, but anyway, so they sort of cleaned me up. They'd cut my top off and everything. So I was in one of those papery type hospital gowns or whatever, and my daughter took a photo of me standing out the front of the hospital with little patches on me. It looked like I just escaped from a lunatic asylum or something. Whatever. Yeah. We had to get an Uber to take us to a pharmacy to get a prescription for antibiotics. They didn't want it to get all infected and whatever. Yeah. And at the chemist they actually sold t-shirts, whatever, so I bought a t-shirt to put on there. And then we had to get another Uber from there back to our hotel. Anyway, I couldn't eat anything. My teeth are all out of whack. As I say, my whole top teeth were sort of pointing back into my mouth, and it was like I couldn't bite anything.
Can't imagine that.
It was pretty terrible. Anyway, God had it all in hand, and he still does. As I say, if you've given him control of your life, even if something seems bad, he's got it all in control. The next morning, we had arranged to hire a car to drive. We were driving to Hollywood, towards Los Angeles. And anyway, we lined up for the car. So that night, going back to that night of the accident, my daughter's trying to find a dentist. And she'd been in contact with my wife back here and family back here they're all praying or whatever, but they were trying to find a dentist too for me to get to, and got onto the travel insurance, and travel insurance rang me, and I remember saying to them, because it was my daughter's holiday, it wasn't my holiday, I was just tagging along, and we'd planned out this whole 8 weeks of stuff, and most of it was in my name, all the bookings. And I said to them, look, I think I can continue. It'll be cheaper for you if you don't have to cancel all this stuff, and I'll try to continue whatever. If it was just me on my own, I would have flown straight back to Australia. It was a pretty bad thing. But anyway, so the travel insurance are happy about that. If you can continue on, even though they paid for all the ambulance and all that type of stuff. Anyway, when we were getting the car the next morning, my daughter gets a message on her phone from a dentist saying, "Can fit you in this afternoon." This is a Saturday afternoon. We've been told we're not going to find anyone in San Francisco on a weekend. But anyway, so she said, "Do you want it?" I said, "Yes, we need to get this sorted out. I need to be able to eat." Yeah. She'd gone to the shop the night before and got me some yogurt because I could sort of suck some yogurt through.
Did it really hurt around your face?
Well, they'd given me strong painkillers.
Painkillers, right.
So I was on strong painkillers, so I was sort of all a bit woozy and everything anyway, so I can't remember what the painkillers were, but they weren't just standard, like the Panadol or whatever.
Heavy duty.
Yeah. Anyway, so I said, yes, I'll have this. So we still got the car, the hire car, and we spent the morning for my daughter to learn how to drive in America, because I was going to be driving, but then she had to, because I was not in no position to drive, you see, so she ended up driving, so we spent the day doing that until we got to the dentist. We get to the dentist and it's a young male, and it's really a blessing because he was young and fit and strong, and he needed to be to get my teeth back in place. Because he's there trying to heave this, because we realised it wasn't the teeth that were broken, it was the part of my skull, the maxilla above there. And he's, it was 2.5 hours, I think, in the dentist chair, him trying to, anyway, he's moving, heaving, and trying to, he said, this will probably hurt. I said, look, I just need to get it done, and it's so many injections to deal with pain and whatever. Anyway, he's there, heaving all his weight and all his might, and then suddenly it went crunch. And he said, that didn't sound too good, did it? And I said, no. I said, but it worked. It sort of got my teeth back into place. It was getting if it was just a young, not being sexist, but young female dentist or something who wasn't as strong as he was,
an old guy,
he wouldn't have been able to do it.
Wow.
He got it back into place, but then he had to wire it all and whatever. Got my teeth I still couldn't eat for a couple of weeks, but properly, without cutting stuff up really small. Anyway, so that was a miracle too. Anyway, so we ended up continuing our trip, finished the whole 8 weeks, and the whole time I was just I didn't realise, I was taking painkillers because, it was summer, it was really hot. This is in July, end of June, beginning of July. In America, that's the middle of summer, it was really hot, and I was just getting all these headaches. I thought, I'm just not drinking enough and whatever, but it was all this, and I was all... Anyway, my daughter ended up leading the way. So here she was, gone from a girl, she just turned 21, she really proved herself to be a young woman, facing her dad unconscious on a bridge in a foreign country where he didn't know anyone, and to leading the way, driving me halfway across America and whatever in this car, and calling 911, it's just so she really proved herself to me. And as I say, less than a year later she was married,
Yes, that's right.
And that's sort of the whole reason I went in the first place. But it was as a Christian, I was talking about God, nothing's an accident. There's a verse that God brought to my mind, and the whole time, the whole 8 weeks, it was, I think it's Romans 8:28. All things work together for good for those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. So all things work together for good. So there's a reason I went through this, and I didn't know it at the time. Anyway, another thing is a day or two later, after being at the hospital, I get a phone call from one of the doctors at the hospital, and he said, just been reviewing your CT scans, and he said, looks like there might be something else there, that when you get back to Australia, you need to go for an MRI, which is a slightly different scan. It's a lot more involved, scanning your brain or whatever. And I said, oh yeah, okay. And I just sort of brushed it off, thought I just want to finish this holiday, get it over and done with, and then we'll deal with that when we get back to Australia. It turns out I ended up having 2 brain tumours that they found when I got back to Australia that I would never have known about if I hadn't gone through this accident, which means they could deal with them before they were a problem and, you know, keep an eye on. And that's a whole bigger story, longer story than this, what happened, because I went through quite a bit with that. Because one of them I've had removed now, and I ended up having.
It's going to be a part 2, guys. Not now, but in the future.
But without having gone through this accident, we wouldn't have known about that. And then it might have been too late, that I might have had a stroke and died or whatever. That if, you know, with pressure on my brain from these tumours, or from one of them at least. And as I say, the other one I've still got, and it's not growing. In fact, it's actually
it's shrinking.
It actually shrunk a little bit, a millimetre, which is incredible. So I think God's got all that in hand too. And I think so. The secret is you give God control of your life, and He will work out all these little things, and He fits it all together.
God doesn't want to be leaving you alone. He knows more than all of us.
Yeah.
And
my daughter and I had spent months and months and months planning this trip, and we had it planned out very well. So she lived in Adelaide, I lived up here in Kadina, and we used to spend hours on the telephone with our laptops, and we could share a spreadsheet where we could put in, and we had the whole thing 8 weeks. It's a lot to plan out where we were going to be every night, what the phone number of the hotel was, you know, what it was called, and where it was, the map reference, and whether we'd paid for it or not, how much it was. We'd planned out all this stuff. Because she had to take over the holiday.
Yes.
She had to take over everything. But because we had it planned out so well, because I couldn't even think straight, you know. We had it all planned out so well that she could lead the way. And if we hadn't done that, even the fact of having this 360 camera on the handlebars that I only got a week before we went, because we decided to audition for the Amazing Race, which we didn't end up doing.
Yeah.
But if we didn't have that camera, I wouldn't even know why the accident happened. But my daughter had heard me calling out, but she thought I would have a heart attack or something happened, and I blacked out or something. That's why I had the accident. But it wasn't. It was, we could see on the video, and when I played it back a couple of months later, I thought I could see, because you can look at any direction in this video. And then I could look down and see that I put the brake on. I could hear the squealing of the brake. And then I went and looked at my bike at home. I thought, and that's how I figured out the brakes are the wrong way around, and figured all that. But without the video, I wouldn't have known. And with travel insurance, you've got to prove everything. I just sent them the video.
Oh wow!
There was no question. Here's the money. It's all paid. And as I say, I think it was something like $40,000 Australian within 12, including the dentist and everything, within the first 24 hours of the
Well, it's been a pleasure, and we just pray for people who are looking at this video now. And is there a God? You better believe it. His name is Jesus Christ. He died on the cross for your sin, and He rose again, and He loves us very much, and He's with us. He will never leave us nor forsake us. So just stay tuned for part 2 coming up. God bless.
God bless.
Fantastic, man.
No, you won't be the same.